think the term chemobrain is nearing the end of its usefulness. Chemobrain is nearing the end of its usefulness. The term chemobrain has been very important and very helpful in helping to acknowledge and refer to brain-related symptoms, cognitive symptoms, and psychological symptoms that cancer survivors experience, especially related to chemotherapy. And for a long time, these kinds of symptoms have been overlooked, minimized, dismissed. People have been told that it's all in their head, that these symptoms are not real. Their brain scans are normal, their lab tests are normal, their cancer is gone, so they shouldn't be having any of these kinds of symptoms that they were complaining about. Brain fog, memory problems, other such symptoms. And so the term chemobrain came about to refer to these symptoms that people were experiencing following cancer treatment. And so it's been a very useful term to acknowledge that and recognize that this is a real thing. But I think it is coming to the end of its usefulness for a couple of reasons. The symptoms that it's referring to, I think the term brain, while these symptoms are most definitely brain related, just referring to them as brain symptoms is a little bit vague, and we can be more specific in describing and referring to these symptoms. But the bigger reason why I think this term is coming to the end of its usefulness is because of the first word, the chemobrain. And so we're realizing, and we have been for a while now, that a lot of these brain symptoms are not just from chemo. Chemo does lead to these kinds of brain symptoms, but there's so much more that goes on with cancer and various cancer treatments that also contribute to these kinds of symptoms. And so folks who experience these symptoms that we refer to as chemobrain, these symptoms are coming from, they might be coming from chemo, but they can also come from radiation treatments. They can come from hormone treatments. These symptoms we know can happen just from the cancer itself, depending on the type of cancer, even just the cancer, and I'm talking about non-brain cancers, so breast cancer, prostate cancer, other types of cancers, can cause these same kind of brain symptoms even before treatment has begun. And so symptoms can also come from surgery and from other complications that can arise along the way, from anemia or other secondary effects of treatment and cancer. So the cause of these different brain symptoms is very complex. It's not just chemo. And people who have never had chemo, people who have cancer or had cancer and had different cancer treatments, but didn't have any chemo, can have all of the same kinds of symptoms. And so using the term chemobrain, then, even though on the one hand it applies, it's a little bit unhelpful, and it's just inadequate at this point to fully describe and refer to everything that's going on here. And so I'd like to propose a new term. And in the research, if you read research, folks who are in medical professions and researching cancer and these kinds of symptoms, they have talked about a number of different terms to refer to these kinds of symptoms. But I would like to propose a new one with the acronym CONS, C-O-N-S, CONS. And so this acronym, these letters stand for Cancer Ordeal Neuropsychological Symptoms. Cancer Ordeal Neuropsychological Symptoms, C-O-N-S, CONS. Let me explain this. So let's start with the last two words, neuropsychological symptoms. So symptoms that are neuropsychological in nature. So what is neuropsychology? Neuropsychology is the study of the relationship between our brain and our behavior. Neuro stands for brain, psychology, human behavior, human moods and emotions and thinking and personality, our psychology, our psyche, all of that. And so neuropsychology is understanding all of the different things about what it means to be human, and then how that is related to our brain and the health and the functioning of our brain. So then neuropsychological symptoms would be all of the different psychological type symptoms, mood symptoms, cognitive symptoms like memory trouble, concentration trouble, brain fog, trouble multitasking, trouble organizing, losing train of thought, all of these different kinds of cognitive symptoms, troubles with our thinking life, changes in our personality, all of these kinds of psychological symptoms related to what's going on with our brain and trouble with our brain. So neuropsychological symptoms, and so then the first part of the term, CONS, would be cancer ordeal. So I think cancer ordeal, the term ordeal referring to some extremely difficult, painful, or traumatic experience. And so understanding what I was talking about a minute ago about all of these symptoms, these neuropsychological symptoms, they're not simply from chemo. Well, they can come from chemo, but they can also come from a lot of other sources that are related to cancer and the cancer treatment and the entire ordeal that is the cancer experience. The cancer itself, the different treatments that happen with cancer, whether it's chemo, radiation, hormone treatments, or even surgery. But then there are also other factors that go along with the entire cancer ordeal. Having this serious health issue, just having this serious health issue affects our mind, affects our body. Having to miss work, if having cancer has led to time off of work, that causes other stresses, and stress affects us physically. Stress increases adrenaline and cortisol, and that affects our body and our brain. Missing work, cancer and the entire cancer experience affects relationships. It affects our ability to engage in things in life that are important to us, hobbies, taking care of things at home and other family responsibilities. And so the neuropsychological symptoms can come from a lot of different things that are all part of the entire cancer experience. Not just the cancer, not just the chemo, but all the other cancer treatments, but even also not just the cancer treatments. So lots of other things that are part of this whole cancer experience, unfortunately, that can contribute to these neuropsychological symptoms. And so I feel like this term then, cancer ordeal, neuropsychological symptoms, can refer to all of this, all of these brain-related, mind-related symptoms that can happen coming from the entire experience, the entire difficult ordeal that is having cancer and all that that means. So I propose we start using this term. We don't need to get rid of chemobrain, but I would really like to see folks begin using this term instead, CONS, cancer ordeal, neuropsychological symptoms, the cons of cancer, dealing with cons, improving, recovering from the cons. But I would really like to get feedback. I'd like to hear what you guys think. Is this helpful? Is this unhelpful? Is this crazy? Is there some aspect of all of this that I've missed? Is there some other term that would be better? Better than cons, better than chemobrain, something that would be better at encapsulating and referring to all of the different symptoms with our mind that can happen after cancer and all the different things that go along with cancer. So think about it and give me some feedback in the comments below. Depending on where I post this, I might post it in social media. I might send it out by email, so email me back if you've received this by email, and tell me what you think. And if you find this helpful, share it. Share it with other people who are dealing with these symptoms. Share it with family and friends to help them better understand what you might be going through if you're experiencing these cons. Share it with your healthcare providers even to help them better understand and be able to talk about these kinds of symptoms because we need to understand it and we need to talk about it if we're ever to improve our ability to deal with it and help to improve these cons. So I hope you find this helpful and I look forward to your feedback. Thanks.